We zitten hier behind closed doors bij Bethesda en we gaan hier een interview doen met Shinji Mikami. En voor mij persoonlijk een legende. Verantwoordelijk, een van de creators van de Resident Evil serie. Eigenlijk het begin van survival horror. Hij heeft echt aan het roer gestaan bij Resident Evil 4. Wat ik misschien wel top 10... Top 5 wil ik misschien niet zeggen, maar top 10 beste games die ik ooit heb gespeeld. Ook een van de beste games ooit gemaakt. Hij heeft Vanquish gemaakt. Hij heeft zoveel games gemaakt die gewoon ontzettend goed zijn. Een legende dus. Die gaan wij interviewen over de nieuwe game van zijn nieuwe bedrijf Tango Gameworks, waarvan hij The Evil Within heeft gemaakt en nu dus deel 2. En bij hem zit ook een, volgens mij is het een Amerikaan en die heet bijna hetzelfde als mij. John Jonasson, dus Jan-Johan en John Jonasson. En het interviewen van mensen vind ik eigenlijk altijd leuk. Vind ik eigenlijk ook altijd gemakkelijk, want ik hou van ouwe hoeren. En ik vind het leuk om met mensen te praten. Alleen bij Japanners is het gewoon lastig. En dat heeft niks te maken met cultuurverschillen, alhoewel die er ook zijn. Maar het feit dat hij gewoon niet zo goed Engels kan, of althans hij wil het niet praten. En dus zit er een tolk bij en gaan we dus de hele tijd heen en weer. En ja, dingen verwateren soms. En soms hebben ze ook de neiging op een hele lange vraag die je stelt. En die ook heel lang vertaald wordt alleen maar ja te zeggen. En je kan niet echt een discussie, dus je kan niet doorvragen. Dus ik wil wel dat je daar van tevoren een beetje rekening mee houdt. Want dat maakt dit heel erg moeilijk. Je kan er ook niet bot invliegen, want dat snappen ze helemaal niet. Maar ik vind het wel tof. Met name omdat hij heeft aangegeven dat hij nu niet meer hoofdverantwoordelijk is voor die game. Hij is nu baas van de toko. Hij is adviseur. Hij zorgt ervoor dat die game goed komt. Maar deze John Jonasson, die is aan de macht. Die is aan zet. Hij gaat die game maken. Hij vindt het een groot talent. Ja, hij krijgt in principe nu vrij spel. Dus ik ben heel benieuwd ook hoe die chemistry tussen die twee is. Ik ben benieuwd hoe die omgaat met het feit dat Resident Evil nog steeds doorgaat. Waarom hij een eigen bedrijf is begonnen en niet gewoon lekker in dat gespreide bedje van Capcom is blijven zitten. Zijn voorliefde voor horror. Waarom zoveel survival horror? Wat vindt hij er tof aan? Ik ga het gewoon allemaal vragen en ik hoop gewoon dat het een beetje een vlot gesprek wordt. Het kan heel awkward worden, het kan heel tof. We gaan het zien. Ik ga wachten tot ik daar in het pacehokje mag. After years and years working for Capcom, making great games, you started an own company, Tango Gameworks. Why this choice?
そうですね、僕自身も新しいことにチャレンジしていきたいし、やっぱり日本にいる若いクリエイターにできるだけ多くのチャンスを与えたいと思って、今の単語を作りました。
Well, my goal was to be able to do new things on my own and also to make use of the rich talent of new upcoming game creators from Japan that we have in Japan. And this is why I just set up my own company to make use of that.
Okay. You started at Tango Gameworks with The Evil Within, which was a great and pretty successful game. You were a director. The Evil Within will be the first game that you will not direct. You will be a little bit more on the back bench. So how does it feel? Can you still let it go and let John make the decisions?
最初の方はスタジオも設立したばっかりなんで、まあ、人もいないしいろんなところから大変だったんですよ。でそこで僕は現場でやってたんですけど、単語自体がすごくっていう、成長して、彼自身そのジョンに関しては DLC でちゃんとしたいいゲームを作って実績も作ったんで、満を持して、今回の続編のディレクター安心して任せれるということです。
When we started out with Tango, we didn't have a lot of stuff, so obviously I had to do most things by my own and be the director myself. But then we discovered this new talent, John, and he showed his talent in the 2 DLCs. And we thought the time is ripe to give an opportunity to the next generation. Yeah, and see what they can do in terms of game designing.
So I'm John Johannes, and I'm game director on Evil Within 2.
How does it feel to work and being the leading guy when you know that a legend like Shinji Mikami is watching you?
Yeah, he's watching me from his office. No, it's quite, it's definitely a challenge, and there's a little bit of, obviously there's that frightening element of like following up on that, but then I thought back to, I felt the same way when making the DLCs about how do I follow up on something like that. But I think when you sort of take it in a direction that you feel confident in, even if it's different, or even if it's your own taste that's a little bit different, I mean, as long as you're confident in it, it'll wind up being something that people will like. So one thing that we always talk about is just being confident in what you think is good and pushing that as far as you can go. And that's what we try to do for the sequel as well. So like, while there's a lot of stress and it's a lot of work and there's expectations, it's just gotta stay focused and just get it done. Yeah.
But the Evil Within, the series, has a lot of Japanese flavor in it. You know, the graphics, the storyline. You're a Western guy, so how did you end up making more Japanese games and not working for Bungie or Blizzard or Activision?
Well, actually, all of my game experience has been working at Tango under Mikami-san. So
okay, you were always a fan of Japanese survival horror games, or?
I grew up playing those games. I grew up playing. I remember sneaking into my basement, playing Resident Evil, playing the first Silent Hill, and freaking myself out trying to beat these games.
Mm-hmm.
So in a weird way, I grew up on those type of games more than, you know, some people a generation ahead of me grew up on, for example, Nintendo games and things like that. I kind of was big into those type of games. And again, looking back, probably most of the games I played were Japanese games. Mm-hmm. It's only recently where I too started playing, you know, Western games and things like that. So I don't know. Is it just because I'm not ethnically Japanese that I could make a Western game?
I don't want to say that, but I like to make the coexistence between Japanese and Western people make great games, but it's like, I was wondering why the choice to work at Tango Gameworks. So,
well, I started working there before we even knew we were going to make a survival horror game. I was intrigued because I knew of Mikami-san and the games that he made, and I grew up playing those games. So I wanted to, whatever it was, you know, because he's not known for just making survival horror games. He's known for making, you know, even at that time when I joined, Vanquish was coming out, you know, so completely different, but still a game that I even enjoy.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a prospect of working on a horror game that intrigued me, but just working with Mikami-san that intrigued me. Okay.
You make a lot of games, different games, but a lot of them are survival horror, starting with Resident Evil. You make other games like that. Why do you like survival horror so much? And also you like the emotion of being frightened. So can you tell me about that?
やっぱ映画は見て怖がるだけだけど、そのゲームっていうのは怖い敵となんか銃でぶっ殺せるじゃないですか。だからそうスカッとするっていうゲームらしさとホラーの魅力ってその両方が味わえるんで、そこがずっと面白いなと思ってて、サバイバルホラーを作り続けてきました。
Well, when you watch a movie, you might be feeling frightened, but you don't have the chance to actually shoot the enemy and, you know, free yourself and enjoy this catharsis moment of, you know, freeing yourself and blowing away your adversary. So I think that's a good combination of frightening scenes and action.
Okay. So what do you like especially about survival horror games? What is for you the main thing in the game? Is it being scared or just spooky or exploration or?
Well, I agree with how Mikami-san described survival horror. It's not just watching a movie; you're in control, so you can turn the tides and like take advantage of the enemies and overcome them. which is, to me, the intrigue of the survival horror genre. It's not just about running away. It's about turning the tables on the enemies and flipping it into your perspective. What was the second half of the question?
Now I forgot that. Like, yeah, what kind of things you can do? And this is a question for you, but also for Shinji. What kind of tricks you can do to make people frightened? For instance, in Resident Evil, the aiming was also a little bit difficult, so it was scary because it was not that easy to aim, so you're frightened. So are there other tricks you use, for instance, in the Evil Within to get people scared?
I mean, we don't try to intentionally make things difficult for people to make them scared. I think we try to do that through just creating the atmosphere of the world, whether it's using effective use of music or just what you see before entering. I mean, that's half of the scare is the build-up to the scare. So it's about carefully signposting those things and getting people involved in the atmosphere. So when that scare happens, it's very effective. Whether it's exploring what seems to be an abandoned town that at first glance doesn't seem that scary, but just by being in there, you're sort of absorbing the atmosphere and getting into the mood. Or going into a place that's traditionally scary, like a dungeon filled with chainsaws or something like that. That's something that you see it from the moment you see it. You're just like, this is scary. So there's lots of ways to play around with that, and especially with the Evil Within, I think we take you to different worlds and different places, and we allow you to sort of absorb the atmosphere of different types of horror as you play the game. Yeah.
Okay, for Mr. Mikami, what are the big influences for you for making the Evil Within series? Movies, films, comics?
今回映画だったらザ・セルでしょうね、やっぱり。
One movie I got influenced from was The Cell.
Yeah, that was an influence. I think the original concept was kind of tied to Inception, right? The sort of inside the mind and what you can do inside the mind. Was there anything else for you? なんか他に影響あった。このシリーズを作った時。
テキサス・チェーンソーズ・マサカ。
Because is there a difference between typical Japanese horror and Western horror movies, where it's more like splatter movies, or Friday the 13th, and the more Japanese cult horror movies? You like them both, or you have preferences?
両方好きです。Both.
You like them both?
Yeah.
Okay. For John, can you tell me, a little bit about the story of the Evil Within 2 after, Evil Within is finished now. What's it about?
Yeah, so the Evil Within 2 takes place 3 years after the events of the first game, and you're against Sebastian Castellanos, who was a detective in the original game, but over the course of the 3 years, he's sort of fallen out and fallen back on drinking, but he's been trying to make sense of the events that happened in the first game, and he is approached by his former partner, Kim-in, who's again returning from the first game, who tells him that his daughter, who he thought had perished in a fire many, many years ago, is in fact alive and is being manipulated by this organization that orchestrated the events of the first game inside this sort of virtual world. And so there's something going wrong with that situation, and they need Sebastian, who's experienced the events of diving into this virtual world of STEM, to go back inside and find his daughter. So it's a chance for him to sort of, again, save the daughter who he believed was lost, but again, face these nightmares that he's experienced again through the first game.
And are there new gameplay things in Evil Within comparing to the first edition?
Yeah, so one of the things many people probably notice, especially if they play the version we have here, is that some of the levels are very big and allow for a very heavier emphasis on exploration. We tie that together with sort of a new crafting system, which makes you search for resources and craft ammunition based off weapons that you want to use.
Why did you make that choice? Because maybe you thought that there was not enough to do in the first edition, or now the technique allows you to do more stuff?
Well, one thing is we wanted more players to sort of play how they wanted to play. The original game was very sort of forceful on how we wanted you to play, or only giving you ammo for these weapons in these situations, and some people felt constrained in that respect. They felt limited on the ways they can play. For example, I couldn't use sneak in this situation, but we wanted to sort of open that up and allow people who enjoy certain play styles to use that play style throughout the game. So when you're exploring, you can approach it from sort of a guns blazing way, or you can sneak kill enemies to conserve ammunition, as well as search for resources, or not even take the time to do that and go straight for your main mission destination and see the story if that's what you want to do.
Okay. Question for Mr. Mikami. I played Resident Evil in VR, and I thought it was the first time that I really loved VR because it adds something to the experience. Did you play Resident Evil in VR, and did you think that virtual reality is something extra, making survival horror even better? And do you have plans for The Evil Within or other games in the future to use virtual reality?
バイオ7は VR で楽しみました。途中までですけど、ただすっごく面白かったです。で、もともとホラーと VR の相性は非常にいいんで、非常にそういうところに関しては興味がたくさんあります。
I did actually play the VR version of Resident Evil to the middle section, and I thought it was great. I think horror and VR go together very well, and I am totally open to new VR projects in the future.
Okay. Same question for John Mudmore. Do you think that virtual reality and horror, because it seems like in a lot of games, virtual reality games that you can play now, it's not something extra, it's a gimmick. But there for the first time I thought that it was really something making survival horror even more scary. What did you think?
I definitely agree with that sentiment. I too played it. I didn't play the whole game through, but I played it in VR. And just sort of experiencing it, like feeling that they're actually there, even though obviously there is no risk, it increases the believability that's been present in survival horror for all these times, where it feels like there's a risk to you opening a door or picking up an item that you may get killed. But yeah, I too am intrigued by the possibilities of VR, especially in horror. Yeah.
But you have to figure out to really implement it well for The Evil Within or other series with your company.
Yeah, I mean, VR is still kind of like an early technology, right? So I can only imagine it's going to get better. We'll find ways to make it even more immersive. And I'm intrigued on what will come out of that. Yeah.
Okay. For Mr. Mikami, in an interview before or during the developing of The Evil Within, you said that The Evil Within would be true survival horror. So true survival horror. So what did you mean with true survival horror? The real survival horror.
Evil Within アクションアドベンチャーであるっていうサバイバルホラーのジャンル定義があって、そこによってってアドベンチャー要素とアクションこの2つをバランスよく持ち合わせてるっていうところで、ピュアサバイバルホラー一つの定義それっていう。でもう一つあって怖い雰囲気を持っていってそれをっていう、武器なんかで、銃なんかでぶち殺せるでそういう恐怖とゲームとのしての爽快感楽しみここの両立されたものそこがサバイバルホラーの定義なんでそういう意味で純粋になる、サバイバルホラーと言えるっていうそういう意味ですね。
Well, my definition of pure survival horror is that you have action, you have horrific, scary, frightening images, but then also the action to overcome these images and to free yourself. And I think these two, when they come together, create pure or actually real survival horror. So I think The Evil Within does a good job of realizing this. That's why I think it's pure survival horror.
Okay. Question for a little bit for both. People loved the first Evil Within, but there was one overlining criticism, and that was that the story mode was a little bit too complicated.
Okay, not the black bars.
So were you a little bit like disappointed in the intelligence of the gamer community, or was there some truth in it, and how do you cope with this problem in The Evil Within 2?
ストーリーが複雑すぎるのは若干ちょっとは心当たりがあって、今回では分かりやすいストーリーに改善しています。
Well, the criticism that the story might have been a little bit too complicated is something we can relate to. So for this sequel, we try to make the story a little bit more straightforward.
Yes, it was definitely something that we took into consideration when approaching this this entry. But even though that may just seem that the story is very simple, but that isn't the case. I mean, it still features the sort of setting that that was introduced in the first game. The concept of the story is easier to grasp, but the sort of the way that it pans out and the finer details still have that sense of mystery that you'll want to search to enjoy. So for fans of that mystery of the first game, those elements are still present, as well as sort of an easier thread to follow to get you through the game in this time.
It seems to me that it's really difficult, because if you work day in, day out with the game and the story for you, it's pretty obvious, and it's really difficult to know if it's too difficult or too easy. So yeah, how do you manage to make a story that it's exactly as difficult as it should be, but not too difficult and not too easy?
シンプルで、主人公のセバスチャンが自分の娘を助けるために、悪夢のような世界に入ると、この軸をすごくしっかり、シンプルに作りました。だからすごく淡白な話じゃなくて、ちゃんとそこにっていう主人公の苦悩やっていう、そこから逃れたいっていう立ち上がる勇気だったり、娘を助けたいっていう家族愛だったり、いろんなものが入ってるんで、いろんな人もたくさん楽しめるようになってると思います。
We've made sure that the basic story and the basic motives for the story are straightforward. The guy has to go into the nightmare to rescue his daughter, so this is very simple and straightforward to understand. But at the same time, he has to overcome different obstacles, has to fight with his own psyche, find the courage to face his own past and so on, and rescue his daughter. So there's different aspects that the user can enjoy, but at the same time, the main, the threat through the story is clear.
Okay. Final question. I'm a huge fan of the Resident Evil series, especially number 4 was absolutely one of the best games I ever played. You're one of the founders. Nowadays, you have no involvement anymore, but there are still Resident Evil games coming out. So how do you look up them? Can you still play them, or yeah, can you let it go that other people make Resident Evil now?
じゃあ僕は純粋に一ユーザーとして毎回期待をしながら待ってます。
I just play every new installment of Resident Evil as a new normal user, and I always look forward to new sequels.